And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house. Today, we're going to be talking about how to address acute diarrhea issues. We'll talk about what the root physiological issues are, kind of give you my take on it from a functional medicine perspective as well. Before we dive in, please smash the like button. Love to see your comments down below. We'll be responding to comments later on tonight as well. And again, if you enjoy the content, please share with family and friends. All right, guys. So diarrhea, what is it? So essentially, you got your Bristol stool chart, right? 4 is like your perfect poopy policeman. That's your kind of sausage form poop. 1's going to be your pellets. That's pure constipation. And then 7 is going to be your pure diarrhea liquid number 2. And essentially, why is that there? Why is that happening? So typically, there's inflammation in the intestines, usually from food, usually from microbes, whether it's bacteria, it could be a parasite, could be an adenovirus. Something is irritating the gut. And so what the gut is doing, it's pulling water in to dilute and flush that thing out of there. That's the first and foremost thing what's happening. And you have to get to the root issue. Now, you deal with acute diarrhea a little bit different than you deal with chronic diarrhea, because when it's chronic, usually there's a microbiome imbalance. There could be a long-standing infection. There could be a food allergy issue, but usually that's not acute. Usually that's kind of like an IBS situation where there's either like constipation, diarrhea, and it's been like a chronic kind of subtle thing. But if it comes on more acute, there's usually a big food allergen behind it. Number one, there's either a bacteria like H. pylori or E. coli or salmonella or campylobacter. These are like kind of opportunistic things that you get from food poisoning. And then, of course, you're going to have just generalized dysbiosis being present, Citrobacter, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Morganella, Proteus. You can also have systemic candida overgrowth, could be a big driving factor. Any of the big parasites, Blastocystis hominis is one that could easily be a big bug that could cause problems, different worms. And obviously, just not having enough enzymes, not having enough bile acids. Bile acid diarrhea is common too, just not being able to break down the fat. And that could be a big stressor on the body. The body could be flushing things out. All those things can be at play. So first thing in the functional medicine world we got to look at, is it acute? Is it not, right? If someone's pretty good diet, but they go to Mexico and they get sick, well, we're thinking maybe it's some of the flora in the food. There's different bacteria in the food that could be an issue. Maybe it's an infection. So the first thing we're going to go to treat diarrhea in an acute diarrheal situation is binders. It could be activated charcoal from coconut shells is a great one. We got a new one called a GI bind, and that has my favorite 3 binders. It has your activated charcoal from coconut shells, which works great. It's going to have chlorella, which works really good. It has some good affinity to metals and mycotoxins. And then obviously zeolite minerals work awesome. That's going to bind to mold toxins as well as other toxins as well. So I like it just as a generalized binder. So we're going to come in there with good binders, GI binder, something similar to that. Sometimes all activated charcoal can be good too, but it can be a little bit constipating for some. So it's nice to have a blend of different ones. So that's the first thing. Next thing is we may make the diet really easy. We may just even do something like bone broth, maybe a little bit of applesauce, maybe some banana, right? The brat diet is one of those diets, but I don't like the toast and I don't necessarily love the rice, but I'll do banana and I'll do applesauce. Those will be the first 2 things I'll take from that. I'll do bone broth or some soup, like an Instapot kind of paleo soup. Again, and then we're going to work on binders. We're going to bind up the toxins, right? Because the body is trying to flush things out of there. So if we can bind it up, now the body won't be trying to flush it out because we kind of are putting handcuffs on it. So it's not creating as much havoc. So we're going to work on binding it up with a kind of binder product. We're going to look at food allergens, right? Are we eating a bunch of food allergens that could be problematic? Right? Are we eating gluten, processed sugar, maybe it's dairy, right? Now, if we went to Mexico and we were doing the activated charcoal, we're doing the GI binders, we're maybe tweaking the food. Next thing we're going to be looking at is adding in probiotics. Probiotics at very high levels, 8 to 10 capsules a day, maybe 1 to 2 capsules every hour or 2, maybe 1 capsule every hour. That's going to crowd out E. coli. So if we have significant bacterial imbalances, right, from a opportunistic salmonella or E. coli, that's going to work on flushing it out. So we'll come in there with really good high levels of probiotics. That can work really good. Once the gut's sensitive, we may come in there with more enzymes. Be careful with the acid. You can definitely do more acid. Just be careful because if your gut's inflamed, you may not do well with it. So be careful with adding in hydrochloric acid, but definitely lean on enzymes. Look at how your stool looks. What foods in your stool are you noticing are undigested? Is it floating? If it's floating or clay or blonde color, that may tell me fat issues. So I may add in more bile. Is there certain food chunks that aren't being broken down? I may cut those foods out, or I may try chewing them better. But the easiest thing out of the gate, maybe just cut them out, see how you do. May dial in my enzymes, dial in my acids. I may do soups and stews to really help kind of stabilize the gut, really get everything dialed in. Now, if I start to add in some bug killers, I may add in a little bit of bismuth. In my GI Clear 2, we have bismuth, or I may add in bismuth salts by themselves. Bismuth can be nice because it prevents some of the excess diarrhea. Now, diarrhea is good because it's getting a toxin out, but the problem is now we're not going to absorb nutrients and potentially have electrolyte imbalances. So if I can mitigate the diarrhea with a binder, because now we're binding up the toxin, maybe add a little bismuth, which coats the intestinal tract and prevents whatever toxins in there from binding to the mucosa. I may add in bismuth salts. Usually they come in 261 milligram capsules, like in Kaopectate, or like there's a couple other brands that are out there that have it. I have some bismuth in my GI Clear 2. We'll take 1 to 2 of those capsules 3 times a day, or with the herbals, right? With a high dose berberine, with a high dose golden seal. I love golden seal. I love olive leaf. I love neem. My GI Clear 4 is my favorite. When I've gotten parasites in Mexico, I bring a lot of herbs, and that one has just been kind of my fail-safe that has knocked out the nausea, solidified the stool. I had a big acute diarrheal episode back over the summer in Mexico, and I knocked it out in a day or two. I stabilized it in the first 24 hours. Within 2 days, that was pretty good. But I did the GI Clear 4, I did high-dose probiotics, and I did my GI bind, and that really stabilized things. That made a big, big difference. I would do a little bit of what was helpful for me too was a little bit of pineapple, fresh pineapple at each meal was good. That could be better more for constipation, but I did like it because I felt like the enzymes help with digestion on that front. So a little bit of fresh pineapple was nice. And then so we'll do bismuth, and we'll combine the bismuth salt either in GI Clear 2 or just bismuth by itself with a good killer. And so we have the binder in there for acute diarrhea. We have the probiotics. So maybe it's the ProBioFlora, or like a high dose lactobacillus bifidobacter, like a high dose, 20, 25 billion a capsule. We're adding in the binder, right? The activated charcoal, the zeolite, the bentonite clay, or the chlorella. We're adding in enzymes. We're adding in probiotics. We're adding in bismuth salts as well to really work on the gut. Now, we can also do things to calm the gut down. If the gut feels really raw and sensitive, we may add in some healing, soothing amino acids like GI Restore, or if you're looking at the main ingredients, that's going to be glutamine, N-acetyl D-glucosamine, DGL licorice, aloe, slippery elm. We're going to do things like okra or vitamin U. We may add in ginger tea with manuka honey and some fresh lime or lemon, half or quarter of a lime or lemon squeezed in. Just things to calm down the gut lining can be very helpful. And you may even want to, if you don't feel great, you may even want to do a little bit of a fast too. Just calm down the gut, ginger tea, some bone broth, just really make things very easy. Listen to how you feel. Your gut may feel okay, but it's exploding out of you, but you may feel also raw inside too. So the more raw you feel, the more you want to lean to fasting and something more liquid and gentle. If you don't feel too raw, then I would lean more to binders, probiotics, and antimicrobials. GI Clear 4 being one, the neem, the golden seal, the berberines, the olive leaf. Those work wonderful. If we're worried about parasites, we're going to have artemisia in there, wormwood in there as well to help as well. And so when we look at these chronic bugs, or so the acute stuff, we're looking at E. coli, salmonella, we're looking at parasites. These are all going to be big things that we look at out of the gates. Now, if it's chronic stuff, this is where we're definitely going to want to do some stool testing. If we have bugs or other pathogens, we may add in different things like olive oregano. We may add in podiarco, olive leaf. We may add in stomona and dill and Java brucea, Hadiotis and Comptus. I got my GI Clear 1 through 6 line. Those are kind of the big ones that I use. 1's more bacteria, 2's more H. pylori, 6 is I'll use more for H. pylori. I'm sorry, more for fungus and for bacteria. There's got podiarco in there and some olive leaf and tinea and it's got French tarragon in there. Really good stuff. And then the 5 is an emulsified oil of oregano, great for yeast, great for bacteria. 4 is my big bug killer with the neem and the golden seal and the burdock root and the olive leaf. And then 3 is my silver, which works great for biofilms and any oral thrush, and can also be good for just generalized adding to the protocol to help with biofilms. So those are some good options out of the gate. Hope this video helped you guys kind of think about it, from a little bit more from a functional medicine perspective. I break it into acute and a chronic, and I kind of gave you my acute protocol and how I handle patients and how I handle myself when I go to Mexico or some country where I start to feel sick. I always bring my GI Clear 4. I always bring GI binder. I always bring a probiotic. One, two, three. Those are my staples. And then I will bring HCl and enzymes, especially if I'm eating bigger meals or eating questionable foods. I want to make sure that I'm on top of the enzymes and acid. And then sometimes I will even do a binder prophylactically with food. If I know the food's questionable or I shouldn't be eating it, or maybe it's like, it's like a street vendor, you use common sense, but bring a good binder if you're on the fence. And the first thing I'm going to hit is going to be binders and probiotics, and then potentially herbals, antimicrobials afterwards. So I hope that makes sense, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll hit a couple questions here in a second. And again, if you guys have chronic issues, tummy issues, gut issues, and you want to dive in deeper, feel free. You can reach out to my team below. There'll be a consult link where you can schedule worldwide if you want that functional medicine support. And put your comments down below. I'll be responding in a bit. And again, if anything benefits you or your family here, please share with at least one person to get the message out. All right, guys, take care. Let me jump on a couple questions. A nurse told me that chronic parasite infections are a normal part of the human condition. Do you agree? I mean, it depends. I mean, in third world countries, parasites are like the number 3 to 5 killer. I mean, E. histo, I think in Africa is like the number 5 killer. I mean, yeah, it creates chronic diarrhea. You lose electrolytes. You get cardiac arrest. It can be problematic here. Not so bad because they just put you on an IV. They blast you with Flagyl. You could still have it. Maybe they knock it down a little bit, but I think parasites here go under, let's just say, under the radar with a lot of gastrodocs. They miss it quite frequently. And a lot of the stool tests are inadequate to pick it up. If it's just a stool antigen under a microscope, they may miss it. So that's a big deal. But I mean, the more chronically ill you are, the more malnourished you are, the more parasites can be a problem. If you have good hydrochloric acid levels, your acid may be able to knock it out. But even then, I mean, parasites are going to win the game. If you have a good bolus of parasite in the water that you're drinking, the Giardia, or in a food, a pinworm, it may win the game. So you got to be careful. Is rosacea connected to SIBO? Would oil of oregano help? Rosacea has an autoimmune component to it. Usually you're going to have the red skin. Sometimes you can have the little pustules as well. There's an autoimmune component. I had rosacea really bad in high school. My face was like as red as this shirt all the time. And I had rosacea, and it had to do with the fact that I ate lots of dairy and lots of gluten. So the first thing I always look at is the food allergens. Next thing I'll look at is the gut probiotic levels, gut bacteria, SIBO. So I do think SIBO could be a component. Now, would I use oil of oregano with SIBO? For sure. I definitely would. I would use a bunch of other herbs too. So my GI Clear 1 through 6 line, I would use one of those. And there's some other products that we'll use that have peppermint and hardwood and alicillin and different herbs too. So there's other things that we would do special order too. Sean writes in, should acid and enzymes be taken before or after? How to calibrate? I typically do enzymes and acids with a meal. Some will say some will say enzymes before and then acids during. Never want to do it before because acid can irritate the gut lining. So if the gut lining is like just raw, like nothing's on it, and acid comes in and hits it, well, that could irritate the gut lining. So acid always with food. Some will say enzymes with food, but it's compliance, right? I try to get patients to do the right thing. If someone forgets and they're like, oh no, well, perfect can become the enemy of good. So I'd rather have everything taken at the same time. If you want to take enzymes before, you can. I don't have a problem with it. If not, do acid and enzymes with food, with a little bit of food in your tummy first, and don't drink too much water. A couple ounces is fine. Just don't try to hydrate. Thanks for the comments on that, Johnny. Appreciate it. All right, guys, have a good night. Enjoy yourselves. And again, comments below. Love to see it.